trendsetters, welcome to today's Grade 12 Business Studies show on human resources, proudly brought to you by Macmillan. We have selected highlights from lessons shown early in the term to help you revise and prepare for your June exams. You can download the notes for today's show from learnextra.co.za/live. Now it's time to get on with today's lesson. Please post your comments and questions on our Facebook page on facebook.com/learnextra or on Twitter @learnextra so we can help you with your revision.
So guys, today, like I said, we're going to be looking at HR, so human resources, but more involved with that, with human resources, there's legislation. So remember, we looked at basic conditions of employment, employment equity, things like that, so we're going to be touching on that, as well as the process, so literally from reading it in the newspaper all the way to settling in and signing your contract. So let's start. The first part of what we're going to look at today is what is HR, and follow me. So the first part here, in a small business, one person will be responsible for managing the human resources, which would usually be the owner or the manager. In a bigger business, an entire department may be responsible for this function, and then a human resource or HR manager heads this department. So literally any type of business, grade 12s, will have some sort of an HR department or HR person. So if you're a small company, perhaps a sole trader, the actual business owner will be in charge of the human resources. In a bigger company with more employees, you'll have an HR department looking after people being brought into the company, even looking at issues which we've looked at in the past, when we have to let people go, for example, or hire new people. So literally every business has some sort of HR in it. Let's have a look at the next slide. Now, part of the, remember like I told you, grade 12s, we've got legislation that goes with this section. And in this, I want to quickly highlight, and this is very important, there are four parts of legislation that's involved with this. The first one is the Labour Relations Act, the Basic Conditions of Employment, Employment Equity, as well as the Skills Development Act. So in a previous lesson, what we've done is we've looked at each of these parts of legislation in detail, and if you don't remember them so well, you can always go back onto the Learn Extra website, go through it, refresh your memory, but I want you to be able to take legislation and link it to HR. Now, this first question looks at an application for a vacancy. So this would be this case study, or let's read the case study and we can have a look at it. So Tembi studied at a Technicon. Now, she has a diploma in travel and tourism, but has been unsuccessful in securing a job. Now, Tembi saw an advert for a receptionist at Trust Lodge in the classified section of the newspaper and applied for the position. Tembi was the only applicant and was appointed to the post. Trust Lodge does not have an employment contract. The second part to this, Tembi had no interest in the job as a receptionist, of which the management of Trust Lodge were fully aware. Tembi spoke openly about her lack of interest in the job, and she had to obtain some form of employment in order to earn an income to meet her financial obligations. So there's a lot happening here, grade 12s. Firstly, it covers the whole application CV part that we've looked at in HR, but it also looks at the lodge not having proper contractual documents, as well as Tembi openly not being favorable of the job. So let's have a look at the question. First question is, if you were the manager of Trust Lodge, would you employ Tembi? Motivate your answer. So if this is out of 6 grade 12s, you know you're going to either have to go yes or no, as well as motivate. Now, the reason I'm showing you this today is that often what happens, especially in prelims and finals, if you don't say yes or no, you don't get any of the marks. So you have to make a stand. And remember, sometimes there is no right answer. As long as you can say yes, you agree, or no, you disagree, but give an explanation. The better your explanation, the yes or no actually eventually becomes inconsequential because you can explain what you're saying. So let's have a look. We could have done this in one of two ways. So you could say yes. If you were the lodge, you would employ her. So let's look at yes. So what would be some reasons of why you would employ her? Because she literally, the company had no other applicants and they needed somebody to work. Or you could say, no, well, let's start that again. You'd say, no, you wouldn't appoint her, and you would re-advertise the post. Now, why would you re-advertise the post? If Tembi openly says that she doesn't want the job, she feels that this, from the sounds of it, well, firstly, she's overqualified. She's got a diploma in travel, and now she's working as a receptionist. So she might not have she wouldn't be the right person because she doesn't feel like she likes the job. Is this making sense? I'm not sure. So you could either, again, say yes or no, but explain. And why I would say it's good to re-advertise the post is that you can get the best person for the job who would give more than Tembi would be giving, because Tembi obviously doesn't want the job, but she's just doing it for the money. So let's have a look at the next question. Suggest 5 clauses that Trust Lodge could include in its employment contract. Now, the 5 I've got here, first off, remember we looked at these, would be a job description, and with that, the job specifications. I would also, remember they asked for 5, I would also include things like what deductions will be being made, as well as her working hours. And literally there could be a lot of things, grade 12s. Other things I've got here would be her remuneration, and let's do one last one, her leave, as well as possible pension. So these are 5 clauses that the lodge should have included in the employment contract. Now, let's have a look at the next question. Would the clauses listed in the question B, which we just did, have helped in avoiding the crisis that Trust Lodge is currently experiencing? Explain your answer. This one, quite easily, grade 12s, I would say yes, they would definitely have avoided all these issues if they included it. And so let's have a look. So the question is, would the clause have listed in the questions have helped avoid the crisis? Yes. And then explain your answers. So I would say the written employment would have avoided the crisis, and they should have included information on the job description, policy promotions, as well as, and this is something we haven't looked at today, clarity on promotions. So clarity on promotions would be, if you start off as a secretary, where will you or where can you end up one day? Let's go to the next question. List any 5 aspects, so list any 5 aspects that Trust Lodge would include in the implementation of the induction and placement process. Remember, we looked at induction as well as placement. So what they should have done, or aspects that they should have included there, would be that Tembi would have to be the manager, should orientate her to the new environment. They should also, part of this, make her familiar with policies as well as procedures. And let's do one more. They should also make it clear what reporting and communication channels. So reporting and communication channels. So if she's a secretary, who does she speak to? Who's her senior? And so part of the induction and placement, when Tembi started working there, they should have explained to her, sat her down, this is how we communicate, this is what we expect from you, etc. Let's go to the next question. Name the act that regulates the employment contract between Trust Lodge and Tembi. And this one, grade 12s, nice and easy. It's the basic conditions of employment. And once again, if you don't remember this, please go onto our website and get these notes on legislation. So this is the law that regulates how things should be done between Tembe and the Lodge. Now, grade 12s, before I carry on to the next question, I just want to remind you, I left out one little section before I did the question. It was a section on looking at the Skills Development Act. And the skills development, or skills development in general, go hand in hand with HR. Often people start working in a company and they might not be the exact match, but with a bit of training, this person will be the person they're looking for. So skills development also, please remember, goes hand in hand with HR. And again, you can get them from our site. So nice and easy.
Okay guys, I hope you're enjoying this revision session. If you are struggling and need help, remember to post on the page or send an email to helpdesk@learnextra.co.za. We have got such exciting news for you. From July, a new program starts on Mindset, just for you. It's called Connections. We'll chat about the issues that affect your life, your school, and your relationships. We'll have fun, take your calls, and have great prizes up for grabs. Connections, from the 1st of July, 7:30 in the evening, only on Mindset. For you, by you. Welcome back from the break. I know you can't wait for the term to end and the July holidays to start. And of course, that means winter school. This year, we will be bringing you special exam revision sessions from the 1st till the 5th of July from 9 a.m. in the morning till 7 p.m. at night. We'll also be repeating the programs from 9:30 p.m. every evening. So don't miss out. If you want to do exam revision with other learners and get help from expert tutors, you can register for our winter school classes at a PC training center near you. Just go to our website, www.learnextra.co.za/classes to get all the details. But for now, let's get back to revision. Over to you.
I want to quickly have a look at exam questions, types of questions that they can ask about this. Now, obviously, we've done the legislation part. We also previously discussed the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, the Labour Relations Act. It is a very important section. There will be questions about this in your exams, guys. Try and go and look at past papers. See how they ask it, because I don't have time. I wish I did. I wish I could be here for 6 hours doing lots of questions with you. But we're going to look at 3 quick questions. I don't know if there's anything else.
Yes, someone asked us, does one need to go to university before joining a learnership?
No.
No?
I don't think so. You can go out of school and you can start working somewhere, and then they can offer you the opportunity to do something while you're working to start learning.
And Cello, I'm sure it's Cello, he asked me, I need to find it, sorry, it was right here. Here. Will I be wrong if I say that BBBEE is an extension of BEE?
Yes, absolutely correct. They took BEE and they said, we made mistakes. We are improving on this act. And they brought out
Didn't they
BBBEE.
take the employment equity and the BBEE?
BBBEE.
There we go. And then
So
take
get
all the
mixed up.
wrongs that happen out
It's
of
just
those.
part of the Employment Equity Act.
Yeah.
So under the Act, you get the BEE and BBBEE.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they just expanded it, basically.
Yeah.
They're making it harder for us. I'm just wondering if it's next going to be BBBBBBEE.
Yeah.
I don't know.
3 E's
Please,
maybe.
make a new name, guys. Yes.
Yeah, those are the only questions so far that are
Awesome.
very hectic. Everyone is enjoying the show. Everyone says that they love you and you should be here every Thursday.
Thank you, guys. All right, so let's start looking at our questions here. This is a shortish question. It says, list 3, and look at it. They actually put it in capitals. Now, I want to go back to this again. When I taught you last time, I said to you, you need to look at the word list, describe, explain, name. List means give it to me. Short, sweet. Don't go and write a paragraph about it. So I'm saying list 3 negative impacts of legislation on businesses. This is very easy. We've spoken about it the whole time tonight. Let's think about it. The first thing that I said is it's going to cost us time in the business. Why am I saying time? We need to take time off. We're going to go on the course. And remember, I said there might be someone overseeing you, like a mentor or your manager, and he's giving up his time. So let's think what else. It costs us money. Grade 12s, we don't call it money. What is the correct business term for money?
Capital.
Capital. Yes, yes, I'm hearing it from this side. I love it. It's costing me capital. Because now I need to get people to come and do these courses. 3 negative aspects. It's costing me money, capital. It's costing me time. And what else? What else is negative about this? We are saying we're not getting the best qualified workers. Do you remember we spoke about that? So we're saying there's a lack of qualified workers. Okay. Now, when we look at the way that they ask questions, in business studies, I also want you always to look at mark allocation. I said list 3. It will usually be for 3 marks. If I had said to you, discuss 3 negative aspects for 6 marks, then you should have given me like 2 sentences. You need to explain it to me. You can't just say, it cost me time. I'll give you 1 mark. Why is it costing me time? Because people have to take off. Do you get what I'm saying? You need to then go into more detail. All right. Whew, that is shocking handwriting.
It's fantastic, man. What you're talking about. Way better than mine.
Okay, let's look at the next one. It says, are these impacts, remember we looked at those negative impacts now, are they short or long term? Substantiate your answer. In other words, grade 12s, you cannot just go and say short term. You need to explain it, substantiate it, back it up. Tell me. So now I'm going to tell you it's both. It's short term and long term. Because remember, we said short term, they have to take out the money now. It's costing them money to go and look for people. We said there's a shortage of people. We need to go find them, recruit them. Then we need to train them. We need to say, what skills do you have? Where do we want you to be? And then send them on training courses, which we have to pay for. Long term, I think it's going to benefit them in the long term. Because now it's costing us money in the short term. We're training. But long term, I'm going to have empowered employees, trained employees, qualified employees that I can pick and choose and say, you've worked so hard, I'm going to promote you. And with confidence, you're going to know this person is qualified. You're not going to have to look for your staff to be qualified. All right, I'm going to write that down for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to say it's both short term and long term. Remember, we just discussed it. We said short term, it's costing us money and time. What do I call money? I'm going to put it in brackets. Capital. And it's costing me time. And then long term, I said to you guys, it's going to mean that there's a bigger qualified employee base that they can choose out of. So then it's going to be good for us. We're going to make up the money. There's going to be more qualified workers. I hope you guys are with me and that you're understanding the Skills Development Act. So let's quickly finish our exam questions, of possible questions here. I said, list the positive impact on the businesses and on the country as a whole. During this hour, we've been talking about upliftment. We've been talking about embracing diversity. And I think if I'm asked this in an exam, the first thing that I'm going to think is diversity. positive is, oh, we've got different cultures, different languages, different beliefs, and this is going to lead to people being creative, throwing around ideas. So that's going to be my first one, is I'm going to say diversity. Now, if you think, we've been talking about training, education, it's going to mean that the workforce in South Africa is more highly qualified. So I'm going to put that as my next one. I'm going to put a more qualified workforce. Remember what I said to you. If you are more qualified, you can apply for a better position. You can earn a higher salary. You can look after your family. So at the end of the day, our economy in South Africa is going to grow. We want to move from a third world country to a first world country. But we need our economy to grow to get there. So I'm saying more qualified workforce. But this is going to lead to economic growth. Very important that you understand that before 1994, South Africa wasn't allowed to trade with other countries. So basically, if you guys think about it, next year's 2014. That's like 20 years?
Yeah, I was born in
democracy?
the born-free generation,
Amazing.
1994.
Wow,
baby.
you are very young. So if you think about it, it's only 20 years that South Africa has been able to trade. For us to be able to build our economy, to start uplifting and saying, hello world, we are here. We've got amazing products. We've got gold. We've got diamonds. Trade with us. So we need to think about that. We can't just be negative and say, oh, we're a third world country. We're doing brilliant, guys. It's only been 20 years. Okay.
Yep.
Let's carry on. My last question here says, just want to lower that a bit. List the benefits of a learnership. But look what I'm asking here. I'm asking for the learner, I'm going to make that a little one, for the training provider, and for the company concerned. So I'm asking you, how does it benefit three parties? Let's have a look at it. Learnership, remember what it was? It's when I learn something practical at the workplace, but also the theoretical knowledge. And this is going to lead to a qualification. So tell me, what do you guys think? Why or what is the benefit going to be for the learner, the employee that's going on this course? He's going to have a new skill. He's going to have a new qualification. So I'm going to quickly write this down. We need to answer here for the learner. We need to answer for the provider. And we need to answer for the company. So quickly think about it. Who is the provider? Why is there a provider? Because remember now, the place of work has to go and get a company to come and do a course. That is the provider. So why would they benefit from it? I've said to you now, the learner is going to be more qualified. And if we think about it, the provider can say they are building the job market because they're teaching new skills, they're adding to a qualification, they are building the employable job market, which will lead to economic growth. So they are building the job market. And then lastly, we need to look at why is this benefiting the company? If a company is now saying, I want to further the skills and the knowledge of my employees, why is it good for them? They are the ones that are going to have more productive, more enthusiastic, trained people saying, I can't wait to go back and do what I've learned. I'm going to go and use this course. I've got brilliant ideas. At the end of the day, the company's going to make a bigger profit. So I'm going to just say they're going to have a profits increase. But you know how I got to that now. I write too ugly to write all of this. All right.
Now it's time for a break, so don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. I hope you are getting into the idea of revision. Please let us know how you are doing. I'd love to chat to you on the page or on Twitter. Enough of the chat. Let's get back to revision.
Our first question, we're going to read through this. It says, Peter is the marketing manager of a bush lodge in King Williamstown. He employs 3 workers. Okay, so I'm just going to underline our key points here. It's 3 workers, Vusi, Jane, and Bussy. He dislikes Vusi. That's not nice. And he treats him differently from the 2 female employees. He requires Vusi to work on weekends and to work overtime without payment. But he pays the other 2 workers for weekends and overtime worked. Vusi is considering quitting his job. Oh, that's terrible. If he is not transferred to another department. Okay, so let's quickly go look here. It says, state the main causes of the conflict in the case study above. So look at this. In the case study, guys, they're saying state, so that means we're just going to name it, we're just going to mention it, we don't need to discuss it, and we need to take it from this case study. So look at this. I actually underlined it. I said to us, he needs to work on weekends, and he needs to work overtime, and he's not paid for it. So let's quickly fill it in here. He needs to work on weekends, and he is not paid overtime. Okay, let's see what question B says. It says, name 3, and they put this in bold print, 3 other causes, not from the case study. It's telling you very specifically something else in life, something in a business situation that can cause conflict in the workplace. Now, please, guys, it must be in the workplace. You can't go and make up your own thing now and say, when my brother takes the remote and I can't watch Revenge, and no, in the workplace. So give us 3 examples. Think, quickly, 2 seconds. All right, I'm going to tell you. We said here, this was about working overtime and not being paid. I'm going to say communication problems. Because remember, when people communicate, there can often be unclear lines, and this can cause conflict. What about culture? I think culture can cause conflict when people don't understand each other's cultures, they're not embracing the diversity. Cultures. What else can you think of?
What about the proper working system layout in terms of time also?
Nice.
Because there's a problem with the being paid the overtime there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So systems overall, policies, procedures. Ooh. Writing like a real teacher, eh? Okay, let's carry on to question number C. It says, give Vusi advice on the different ways in which he can overcome his dissatisfaction as an employee at the Bush Lodge. Now it says, give him advice. That can't just be one sentence or one point. You need to look at the question. Obviously, we also need to look at mark allocation. In the exams, you need to look at how many marks this is for. Instance, if this was 2 marks, you could give 2 short points, could be a 10-mark question, and you'd have to give me a lot of advice about what he can do. So my opinion says, he can now go and have a conversation with senior management. Because remember, we said it's informal discussion the first time that we're unhappy about something. And the next step, if this doesn't solve the problem, he goes to senior management and he hands in a written appeal. He states his problem in writing. Writing. And then lastly, if that didn't work, they can get a neutral third party. And I'm going to write CCMA because then you know the steps that he needs to go through. Conciliation, mediation, and arbitration. You remember that? You know that I would ask that. I love that. CCMA, Commission for Conciliation, Mediation, and Arbitration. Let's carry on. That was the end of our first question. Second question for today. Oh, this is a long case study. It says the management of Laduma Limited was suspicious. I like that. Suspicious, it's a clue, about the behavior of certain factory workers whom they suspected of being under the influence of either drugs or alcohol. During the past 7 months, 3 employees who were allegedly using drugs on duty were dismissed by management immediately. This was a concern because it led to serious conflict between management and employees in the workplace, lower productivity and low morale amongst the workforce. The 3 dismissed workers submitted written statements to the union claiming that they did not use drugs while on duty. The company met with the union through the workplace forum and was requested to reinstate, I'm going to talk about that word now, the 3 employees. Laduma Limited had no policy, oh, very bad, in place. A formal disciplinary hearing regarding their dismissal was not held, and there was no evidence, oh, very important, guys, no evidence provided by the company as reasons for this dismissal. So let's look at question A. It says, name any 2, look in brackets or in capitals, there's 2, and it says name any 2 causes of conflict from the case study above. So we said that there was the suspicion of drugs and alcohol. And then there was conflict between management and the employees when they dismissed those 3 workers. So I'm going to say after the dismissal. Just look how they asked this question. They said name. They didn't say discuss. Name is merely stating something. You would get your mark for saying that, and you would get your mark for saying that because you named it. You didn't have to explain it, discuss it, analyze it. And once again, they told you very nicely, only 2. Let's look at question number B. State 5 steps. State. Once again, state is the same as name, give, list. It's not discussing it. State 5 steps that management should follow when resolving conflict in the workplace. We spoke about this already. We said they must listen. They can have an individual little talk, informal talk. They must listen to the complaints. Then, if that doesn't work, they can bring in a neutral third party. We can look at our methods. We spoke about it earlier. We said they can negotiate. They can try and solve this problem by coming to a consensus. They can mediate. They can get in a neutral third party that's going to give advice, but it's still up to those original parties to decide whether they're going to accept it or not. And then lastly, the last resort, if nothing happens and nothing helps, they can have an arbitrator come in to make the legally binding decision. Remember, it's a law. Okay, so let's quickly fill that in. It says the 5 steps, what we can do is we can firstly just listen, and he's going to talk to us. We can have negotiation. We can have conciliation. And then mediation and arbitration. I really hope that you guys are going to remember the CCMA and what it stands for. If there's one thing that you learned in this lesson, I hope it's that. Okay, now it says, describe the functions of the workplace forum. We spoke about the workplace forum. Let's just quickly listen again. What was the workplace forum? It is when we have a representative out of the different sections in the business that's going to be able to talk to management, consult them, negotiate with them about issues and concerns. So they say here, describe the functions. Why are they there? They are there to ensure that workers are part of decision making. So we need to make them a part of decision making. And then what do we also want them to do? We want them to communicate. We want them to tell us what's going on and consult with us. Tell us about certain procedures that's going to happen in the business. So we always want them to consult us. All right, guys, the last question. Number D, it says, outline ways that Laduma Limited could use to avoid the conflict that arose between staff and management as a result of the dismissal. So we're asking here, what could they have done differently for the workers not to be upset about this dismissal? Now, if you remember when we read through that case study, you see that there was only a suspicion. They didn't even have proof that this was happening. So obviously all their friends that was working there, they were very cross. They were upset that these people were fired. Communication is really important. They should have communicated to the other workers saying, this is what happened, this is why they were asked to leave, and keep an open channel of communication. They could have solved that in a better way, I think.
Now it's time for a break, so don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Mindsetters. In case you missed my news, starting in July, we have a new program that is going to get you talking. What's on your mind? What are the issues you deal with? How can we help you? Connections will help you with all that and more, so make sure you catch it. For a fun and youthful look at life, connect with us on Connections. But right now, let's do some more revision.
The first question asks us, is Normsa's suggestion appropriate? Explain your reasons. Now, I'm just going to move the page down. So first off, grade 12s, without thinking about it, yes, her actions were correct. Now, what I want you to keep in mind, though, with Normsa's response, and I'll write this down for you as well, Normsa has the right, obviously, to discuss the fact that she wants to strike because the workers at the factory are unhappy. So the issue there is Normsa has the right to suggest it. On the other hand, Normsa does not have the right to just say, right, we're going to go strike tomorrow. There's proper procedure to be followed with that. So let's quickly get this right. So the question was, does Normsa have the right to suggest this? Yes, she does. So let's get this down. So Normsa has the right, but she needs to first speak to management. So management needs to be informed, which they've done. So management needs to be informed. The next part of this grade 12s would be that they are allowed to talk about a strike, but they can't call it. And lastly, what they need to keep in mind is that proper procedure needs to be followed. And we'll be seeing in a bit more detail what the proper procedure is to do this. So that was question A. Is Normsa allowed to do this? Yes, she is. She can suggest it, take it to management, follow the proper procedures, but they can't just strike because they feel like it, kind of thing. Let's look at the next question, B. It's asking us, with the section on LRA in this unit in mind, and your knowledge of this in unit 3 and 4, which we've gone through together, grade 12s, decide whether the workers have the right to strike, and then they ask you, try to conduct further research into LRA to get more detailed information on strike action and procedures. So with question B, grade 12s, they're asking you, this isn't a typical exam question as such, but they're asking you, are the workers entitled to strike, and what would the procedure be? So let's go through this together. Grab your pens, let's write this down. This will give you a good idea on what the procedure is. So for question B, so the first part here, we have, or what I want you to keep in mind is, as South African workers, strike action is allowed in the Constitution. So yes, the workers are definitely allowed to do this. And the next part, basically, so I've jumped the gun here again. So what this question was asking is that decide whether the workers have the right to strike. So we said yes, they have the right to strike. And basically, if we go back to the notes that I did on the LRA, it is broken down in there. So I don't want to waste time writing all the stuff down you can print out for yourself. Let's go to the next question. So C, we're looking at this is the one I was jumping to. C, what are the steps to be followed by the workers in order to call a legal strike? Very important the most important word in this question, grade 12s, is that what are the steps, first off, but what are they supposed to do to have a legal strike? Remember, a legal strike would be, it's informed between the workers, the unions, and employers, and a legal strike would be if people just go out and do it. And that's a whole different issue completely. So what are the steps? So first off, let me find the space here. So for C, what are the steps? So first off, if they want to strike, the dispute will be referred to the CCMA or any other council, or a council, well, not any council, a council related to this. Next, the second part, so let's label this 1. So number 2, the next part to this, that they will get a certificate that a dispute remains they will get from the CCMA or council, they'll get a certificate that the dispute is unresolved. So between everyone, they can't come to a conclusion, and literally the dispute can't be resolved. So they have their certificate. The third part to this is that what they'll now have to so the third part to this is grade 12s. 30 days elapse since the referral, and what they need to do. So they can be up to 30 days for this process to take place, for you to go and inform everyone. But what has to happen within 48 hours before they do the strike, they need to inform 3 parties. So what are the 3 parties that need to be informed in 48 hours? So the 48 hours, in the 48 hours, they need to get hold of or inform, that's a better word, grade 12s, they need to inform their employer that they're going to strike. They need to inform the council that they're going to strike. And the last part, grade 12s, they also need to inform the employer's organization that they are going to strike. Now, what I haven't done or spoken about a lot is that so workers are allowed to be part of a trade union, but employers, on the other hand, are also allowed to be part of employer organizations. And remember, on the other side, so employees are allowed to conduct industrial action, as in strikes, go-slows, picketing. On the other hand, employers are allowed to do, or their action would be a lockout. Now, a lockout is literally where the business premises is locked out, people or the workers can't come in. Now, if there's a case of, and that could be for various reasons where businesses need to do this. Now, if a business has to conduct a lockout, they need to follow the same 48-hour process where they inform workers, the unions, etc., that this process is going to happen. And this would, again, be for a business to have a legal lockout. Now, let's have a look at the last question on this section, grade 12s. It asks us, what can the workers do if their strike action fails to elicit any response from the manager, from the company? Now, at this stage, grade 12s, if this still hasn't worked out, or if this still hasn't been fixed, what the workers will have to do is literally, again, refer the issue to the CCMA. Now, again, if we look at disputes, remember if the CCMA doesn't work out, you'll eventually end up at the labour court. But so let's get this down. So if this strike action, this initial strike action didn't work out, where can they go? They can go to the CCMA. Now, what we're going to do grade 12s, again, I've got another case study here. It's a little bit long. It's not long. It's about a medium type thing. I'm going to read through it really, really quickly so you've got reference to what I'm speaking about. If you've got your textbook, all you need to do, grade 12s with Macmillan, go to page 206. It's literally the next activity. I like this activity because it followed on from the previous one and that it also goes into a little bit more depth on the Labour Relations Act and what's been going wrong in this factory. So let's have a quick look. Now, remember the previous case study, there was that woman called Nomsa. Now, Nomsa, the food packer, was dismissed by the company because they firmly believe that she instigated the strike. However, Nomsa argues that she merely discussed it with her fellow workers and the fact that they are being treated unfairly and tried to decide what to do about it. Now, she also said that she alone can't call a strike. Now, the union representative, Joshua, called the workers to a meeting after patients reported that she was unable to attend her sister's funeral. Now, at this meeting, the workers, except one, voted to call a strike, if you remember this. And she also pointed out that they have, on various occasions, tried to get their disputes settled. Now, Nomsa then decided to take the matter to the CCMA, but she is unclear about the correct procedure to be followed in order to bring her case about unfair dismissal to this institution. Now, the first question here, grade 12s, it says, or it's asking us, identify the unfair labour practices in the case study in both question 1 and question 2. Now, if you remember back, as we were going through the first case study, I was quickly numbering all the things I saw that popped out. And in this case, you can also see things that popped out, So what I'm going to do is, and try and think back to what I read earlier, what are the unfair labour practices? Off the top of my head, grade 12s, some of these things should really have stood out for you. It was the boss being abusive to the workers in front of other workers. So instead of discussing it, he was just shouting at everyone. Another issue that stands out is that the lady that was called Patience was denied going to her sister's funeral, which is part of the basic conditions. Remember, you're allowed leave, and this would be part of family leave. But before I get carried away, let's write this down so you can all have it. So what are the unfair labour practices that we've picked up? So for question A, the first one I have here, grade 8. Grade 8, good grief. Grade 12. I'm so sorry, what a diss. So the first part here, guys, as I said, would be the abusive superior, or the abusive, let's go with superior, shouting at the supervisor, shouting at the workers. Remember, you can do this in a better manner. The second issue that stood out would be the unsafe and as well dirty working environment. Let's do 2 more. Another issue that I picked up would be refusing that lady family leave or family responsibility leave. So refusing the lady to go to her to her sister's funeral. So I'm just going to go refusing family responsibility. I'm going to make this short for once. I never make anything short, but just remember that. Now remember, guys, you get different sick days. We've looked at this in the past. So you have a number of sick days allowed. Remember, so you also entitled to like 21 consecutive days leave. And part of this would be family responsibility. Now, for family responsibility, it could be the illness, death of a family member, and you have the responsibility, obviously, to be there. And you get 3 of those days a year. And let's go to the next question. The next question asks us, what is the legal position regarding salary and wage slips? Now, in the previous case study, it was telling us that these workers are working in a dirty place, etc., and they're also not getting their wage or salary slip, telling them how much they're making, as well as, very important, what deductions are being made. So they don't really know why they're being paid what. So what are the legal positions? What is the legal position regarding this? Simply, the legal position regarding people receiving pay slips, grade 12s, would be, according to the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, workers must receive a pay slip or salary slip of sorts where their income is broken down, where they can see what deductions are being made, what's going to pension, what's going to middle aid. So according to the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, workers must receive a pay slip. The third question asks us, what is the term used for the type of leave a company should grant when a close family member or a worker dies? Remember, I sort of jumped the gun on this one. This would be family responsibility leave. That would be the first part. And remember, you get 3 days a year. And this would be if there's illness or a death or something of that sort in the family. It could also be the birth of, well, your husband or... No, it couldn't be the birth of your husband.
Well,
so if your wife gives birth as a husband, you're entitled to have family responsibility leave to be with your family. Let's look at the next question. Now, is this type of leave covered in the Basic Conditions of Employment, and how much is granted? Like I said, yes it is. And remember, 3 days. The next question, do you think NOMSA has a case for unfair dismissal? Now, this really, grade 12s, could go either way. I would personally go with, so this is E. In principle, yes, she does have the right to refer to the CCMA. So yes, she can refer this to the CCMA. And remember, what I want you grade 12 to remember, employers can't fire workers without giving them a proper disciplinary hearing. So NOMSA's employers were already wrong because they decided she caused the strike, she caused this action, and they were simply going to fire her. Remember, employers cannot just fire workers, they need to go through the proper procedure. So that would be disciplinary hearings. Remember, these things involve written and verbal warnings, and they can't simply fire NOMSA because they think she started the trouble. I think there's one more question with this case study. This question asks, what procedures should she follow before she resorts to the CCMA? And what I've got here, and you can write this down with me, what she needs to do, and what she's trying to do, is try to resolve the dispute internally. In other words, grade 12s, she should try and sort this problem out with her supervisors, managers, management, before she goes to the CCMA. So what NOMSA should do is try and sort the problem out in her work environment before she goes to the CCMA. It's cheaper, it's easier, and possibly it will be a better outcome for both parties. And another part I want you to add in there, she could have done this through following a grievance procedure, which we've looked at. So if she didn't get any luck from management, she should have gone through the process of a grievance procedure. But as we read the case study, it's quite clear that her employers were aggressively trying to get rid of her. So that would probably be a good idea to then rather go to the CCMA or to your trade union to try and be protected. Because remember, this part of industrial relations, we're looking at how people are, or employees are protected. Okay, good stuff, grade 12.
We've come to the end of today's show. Thanks to Macmillan for making the show possible, and thank you for joining me and for participating in this revision session. Don't forget to join us for Learn Extra Winter School from the 1st till the 5th of July, when we'll bring you great revision with live shows during the day. We'll also be repeating all the Term 2 Learn Extra live shows from the 8th till the 12th of July, so you'll be ready for Term 3 and your prelim exams. Remember that if you're stuck on any questions, you can get help by sending an email to helpdesk@learnextra.co.za. We'll be back with live shows from the 15th of July for Term 3 lessons.
And they needed somebody to work. Or you could say, no, well, let's start that again. You'd say no, you wouldn't appoint her, and you would re-advertise the post. Now, why would you re-advertise the post? If Tembi openly says that she doesn't want the job, she feels that this, from the sounds of it, firstly, she's overqualified. She's got a diploma in travel, and now she's working as a receptionist. So she might not have she wouldn't be the right person because she doesn't feel like she likes the job. Is this making sense? I'm not sure. So you could either, again, say yes or no, but explain. And why I would say it's good to re-advertise the post is that you can get the best person for the job who would give more than Tembi would be giving, because Tembi obviously doesn't want the job, but she's just doing it for the money. So let's have a look at the next question. Suggest 5 clauses that Trust Lodge could include in its employment contract. Now the 5 I've got here, first off, remember we looked at these, would be a job description. You're responsible for managing the human resources, which would usually be the owner or the manager. In a bigger business, an entire department may be responsible for this function, and then a human resource or HR manager heads this department. So literally any type of business, grade 12s, will have some sort of an HR department or HR person. So if you're a small company, perhaps a sole trader, the actual business owner will be in charge of the human resources. In a bigger company with more employees, you'll have an HR department looking after people being brought into the company, even looking at issues which we've looked at in the past, when we have to let people go, for example, or hire new people. So literally every business has some sort of HR in it. Let's have a look at the next slide. Now, part of remember, like I told you, grade 12s, we've got legislation that goes with this section. And in this, I want to quickly highlight, and this is very important, there are 4 parts of legislation that's involved with this. The first one is the Labour Relations Act, the Basic Conditions of Employment, Employment Equity, as well as the Skills Development Act. So in a previous lesson, what we've done is we've looked at each of these parts of legislation.
Mindsetters, welcome to today's Grade 12 Business Studies show on human resources, proudly brought to you by Macmillan. We have selected highlights from lessons shown early in the term to help you revise and prepare for your June exams. You can download the notes for today's show from learnextra.co.za/live. Now it's time to get on with today's lesson. Please post your comments and questions on our Facebook page on facebook.com/LearnExtra or on Twitter @LearnExtra so we can help you with your revision.
So guys, today, like I said, we're going to be looking at HR, so human resources, but more involved with that. With human resources, there's legislation. So remember, we looked at basic conditions of employment, employment equity, things like that. So we're going to be touching on that, as well as the process. So literally from reading it in the newspaper all the way to settling in and signing your contract. So let's start. The first part of what we're going to look at today is what is HR. And follow me. So the first part here, in a small business, one person will be in detail. And if you don't remember them so well, you can always go back onto the Learn Extra website, go through it, refresh your memory. But I want you to be able to take legislation and link it to HR. Now, the first question looks at an application for a vacancy. So this would be this case study. Well, let's read the case study and we can have a look at it. So Tembi studied at a Technikon. Now, she has a diploma in travel and tourism, but has been unsuccessful in securing a job. Now, Tembi saw an advert for a receptionist at Trust Lodge in the classified section of the newspaper and applied for the position. Tembi was the only applicant and was appointed to the post. Trust Lodge does not have an employment contract. The second part to this, Tembi had no interest in the job as a receptionist, of which the management of Trust Lodge were fully aware. Tembi spoke openly about her lack of interest in the job, and she had to obtain some form of employment in order to earn an income to meet her financial obligations. So there's a lot happening here, grade 12s. Firstly, it covers the whole application CV part that we've looked at in HR, but it also looks at the lodge not having proper contractual documents, as well as Tembi openly not being favorable of the job. So let's have a look at the question. First question is, if you were the manager of Trust Lodge, would you employ Tembi? Motivate your answer. So if this is out of 6 grade 12s, you know you're going to either have to go yes or no, as well as motivate. Now, the reason I'm showing you this today is that often what happens, especially in prelims and finals, if you don't say yes or no, you don't get any of the marks. So you have to make a stand. And remember, sometimes there is no right answer. As long as you can say yes, you agree, or no, you disagree, but give an explanation. The better your explanation, the yes or no actually eventually becomes inconsequential because you can explain what you're saying. So let's have a look. We could have done this in one of two ways. So you could say yes. If you were the lodge, you would employ her. So let's look at yes. So what would be some reasons of why you would employ her? Because she literally, the company had no other applicants.